The Trump inauguration had a major change, and that was I don't know if it's been officially announced, but has been highly, not even speculated. Sources are saying the Trump inauguration will be moving indoors. Now, the primary reason for this, you may have expected, is because of very cold weather that is coming on Monday to Washington, D.C. However, you can also look into this and say this could be a very big sigh of relief for the Secret Service. Now, it is a bummer for a lot of people who are planning on making that trip. I know there are people in our own office doing that. There are people who are involved who really want to go see that moment, family members. But unfortunately, all reports are right now that the Trump-Vance swearing-in ceremony, traditionally that takes place, will be moving inside, likely inside the Capitol. And that's where we're at.
Every reporter in D.C. is getting the same information from sources, which means they're getting it out there now with a official announcement with what it will look like forthcoming. But we're seeing that because of what they're calling dangerously cold temperatures expected on Monday, that they are moving it inside. That means it'll be in the rotunda there at the Capitol. And when you look at the weather, this isn't typically, we're not giving you 10-day forecast here, but on Monday, it is a high of 24 degrees, a low of 9, expected to be around 22, 23 degrees around the time of the swearing in. People are obviously there for hours upon hours beforehand as they try to get their position on the lawn.
One of my friends that has a ticketed version says that he had to arrive at 5 a.m.
Right.
So, I mean, you're talking about a very cold even sun coming up. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm actually looking at the comments, and a lot of you are very happy about this and are really, mainly because of safety. Obviously, everyone was concerned when you've had multiple assassination attempts on a presidential candidate, what this looks like. And sadly, this is the state of America. I think this is something we could hopefully get away from soon. But right now, the safety and security of everyone is dealing with this.
Is the inauguration taking place in the same Capitol where Trump was supposed to have incited the storming of the Capitol? Is that not poetic justice?
I don't know if it's poetic justice, but you can at least say that it is an interesting, maybe you say, into that story.
Right, final chapter of that
as George Lucas would say for Star Wars, it echoes. It has a moment where the theory goes around and it all comes full circle.
Does that mean that there's going to be 36 more Trump inaugurations because of the way the Star Wars franchise works out?
I'm talking about the original Star Wars.
Okay, got it.
History repeats itself to a way where, yes, you have these sort of big moments where you'll have this conclusion. And yes, I think that will be part of the story in history.
Right.
I think history books will look in books, the web, the internet, will look back and say, our brain chips from Elon, will say, isn't that wild? That's a crazy into this story, if you will, that because of the weather. Now, this is not the first time the inauguration had to be moved inside. It happened to Ronald Reagan. It's happened multiple times throughout this entire run. But hey, you know what? President Trump is a Floridian now. He knows too cold. Too cold. Right. Too cold.
You can guarantee that on MSNBC and CNN, they are going to have side-by-sides,
of course,
of the swearing-in ceremony and the protesters walking through the rotunda.
Van Jones going to be crying.
They have already, as soon as this information went out, they ordered the graphics department to start mocking up the side-by-side, try to find the right angle so it looks identical, because they're going to try to repeat that forever.
President Trump's second inauguration will be now inside the United States Capitol Rotunda. He put out a statement. It was used, obviously, by Ronald Reagan in 1985, who had his ceremonial inauguration, fun fact, at Walt Disney World at Epcot. You should watch those, look at those pictures, see those videos. If you ever wanted to see something crazy, see the president speaking out in front of Spaceship Earth. But this is what he said: "I have ordered the inauguration address in addition to the prayers and other speakers to be delivered inside the United States Capitol Rotunda, as was used by Ronald Reagan in 1985, also because of very cold weather. The various dignitaries and guests will be brought into the Capitol. This will be a very beautiful experience for all, and especially for the large TV audience. We will open Capital One Arena on Monday for live viewing of this historic event and to host the presidential parade. I will join the crowd at Capital One after my swearing in." So again, Capital One Arena, though, I mean, it holds, formerly the MCI Center, for those who remember that. It probably holds a normal size of an arena, somewhere between 19,000, 20,000. Not exactly fitting everybody in there probably, but you will at least have something that people who have gotten tickets, probably those guaranteed tickets, will be able to attend. And again, this is what the big breaking news is. A lot of people are speculating, of course, the security concerns that were going to be happening of an outside event, a big event which you can't necessarily control everything. And obviously, I'm sure the Secret Service is somewhat breathing a sigh of relief, trying to figure out what to do after you've had such a chaotic 6 months or 7 months for President Trump.
I am relieved that it's being moved inside, not just for his safety, but if he caught pneumonia. But I'm surprised that they didn't think of having it at Mar-a-Lago, big golf course. You could have fit everybody. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you,
Joseph,
Logan.
I think there's a lot of people that feel similarly, not necessarily because of age, but because of health, and even said, I don't want anyone to get injured, because obviously it's an icy area, a lot of places to slip and fall. And then you have the obvious health risks of being out in below freezing temperatures. Interesting, you brought up, should they have it in Mar-a-Lago or somewhere like that? The ceremony will definitely be taking place inside the Capitol Rotunda, as it should be. But if you look back to 1985, as I mentioned earlier, President Reagan had his second inauguration celebration, because they had to move it inside, at Epcot at Walt Disney World. So, I don't know if Walt Disney World's still up for hosting an inauguration.
A little bit different times with the Walt Disney Corporation.
Ronald Reagan helped open Disneyland and was friends with Walt Disney, Drew Patriot, Walt Disney. But there are things like that can happen. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw some form of celebration tour that happens from President Trump that feels to be kind of on track for him. But of course, we want him to get in there first and just get this country safe and sound again. And that's what we're hoping for.
And you have to think that those in the Secret Service as well are thrilled with this move. Obviously, the pomp and circumstance and President Trump's own style is to have the big outdoor celebration with a large crowd extending out down the National Mall. So I feel like he didn't make this decision lightly. It was from advice of, people are going to be out there since 5 a.m. The exposure to that kind of cold for that long is not good, and not wanting people to get hurt. But you have to think that with all of the negative and failures of the Secret Service over the past year, that they were probably weighing in on this as well and saying, if you are moving it in, it's a good move, because it is clearly being indoors, contained in an already very secure building. Then you have to think that that's a much better thing when the entire world will be watching on Monday as President Trump is sworn in for his second term in office.
I do think there's also not only the concern from the security point of view, because look at what happened during these confirmation hearings that are happening right now. You've had not violent protesters, but you've had very loud, obnoxious, being carried out protesters. Obviously, there will be protesters at the inauguration. I don't think there will be as many as there were before, somewhat because of this, unprecedented cold here in January in Washington, D.C. But this is a moment, again, that we'll see what the progress happens. We'll see where it goes. The reaction, though, I'm seeing on our comments, people are, I don't want to say excited, but maybe relieved, because you're not going to be watching an event with that just concern maybe the whole time if security is really in place or not.